All right. Well, we definitely have a lot to cover today. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on this lunch webinar we're doing, put on with the California Cannabis Industry Association, along with the Cannabis Marketing Association. I'll just give a quick little intro and some house cleaning. If you do have questions, there is a question box. You should be able to ask questions through your side. We'll do a small little Q&A at the end, but it'll mainly be a nice full panel conversation. My name's Justin McCarthy, Membership Director over here at CCIA. Just a quick little bit about CCIA. We've been around since 2013, represent about 500 members in the space, half of them being professional ancillary services like the distinguished panelists we have today, along with quite a few license holders as well. We do a lot of the legislative and regulatory work here in California, trying to progress the industry forward in a professional and legitimate way. And we also do a lot of educational outreach and campaigns similar to this. So we run events and webinars throughout the year. I'm definitely excited to partner with Lisa and the Cannabis Marketing Association, along with our member panelists that we have today. So I'll let Lisa take it from here and we will get going. But if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and ask them in the box or just send up follow-up questions to myself or Lisa, and we'll obviously be following up with you guys as well. So thank you for spending an hour with us, and we'll go ahead and get going.
Thank you, Justin. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Lisa Buffo. I am the founder and CEO of the Cannabis Marketing Association. We are focused on education and best practices for industry marketers and communications professionals. We're a national organization. We've been around since 2016, but we officially launched in January of this year. We have over 100 members, and similar to CCIA, we are also split between license holders and ancillary service providers. And we host events in 8 cities around the country, and we also do monthly webinars focused on compliance, best practices, branding, all the things cannabis marketing related. So if you have any questions about CMA, don't hesitate to reach out to me or check out our website. So for today's webinar discussion, our goal is to really talk about how to build a homegrown brand and then carry that message nationally. So we're using California as an example, as it's one of the more mature markets in the cannabis industry. And we have a really awesome and exciting lineup of panelists today who will be joining us, who have been working in the California cannabis industry for quite some time. If you do have questions, like Justin said, throw them into the chat box. We're going to just go straight through and do 45 minutes of free-flowing panel discussion first, and then we'll leave about 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. Okay, so let's get started. So I will have all of the panelists introduce themselves. So panelists will go in order. If you could just give a quick 1 to 2 minute introduction, who you are, what you do, what your role is in the California Cannabis Industry Association, and then we'll pass it on. Daniel, can you start us off?
Sure. My name is Daniel Stein, and I am the founder and CEO of EVB, and we're based in Oakland, California. We have been working in the cannabis space. Well, the agency's been around for about almost 20 years, and we've been working in the cannabis space for about 6. We've worked on a number of the big multi-state operators like Harvest, GTI, NorCal, but we also work with a number of local California brands. And we have, one of the things that we do for a lot of our cannabis brands is bring new brands to market, basically starting and building a brand from scratch. So I'm really looking forward to participating in this panel.
Thank you, Daniel. Jonathan?
Yeah, hi, my name's Jonathan Forstad, and I'm the CMO of Jetty Extracts, based here in Oakland, California. First, thank you to Justin and the CCIA and Lisa, CMA, for having us on the panel. Excited to talk with everybody today. I've been with Jetty for about 2 years. My first experience within the cannabis space. So prior to that, I was in consumer products and musical instruments, both on the agency side and the brand side, with Fender and Taylor guitars. So I'm trying to bring a kind of mainstream lifestyle approach to our marketing here at Jetty. We've been working with CCIA on a couple of initiatives, primarily SB 34, which is a compassion program, and we run a fairly decent sized program providing free cannabis to cancer patients. And as many of you may know, in California, it now has become very difficult for us to actually give product away, even for the best of intentions. But this bill that's actually progressing nicely through the Senate now, and almost ready for signature, hopefully, is something we've been pretty focused on and excited to move forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Jess?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jess Koska. I'm the Director of Marketing at Solar Green Distribution. My past in cannabis, I've been working for cannabis companies for the past 5 years in California, and prior to that, I was in the music industry in Philadelphia. While in cannabis, I've been working with companies with like To Dolores and Treatables, which have been cannabis brands, and then went over to Kinslips and helped them develop the brand and products. And now with Solar Green, we're a logistics-centered distribution company with a technology platform that helps our brands grow. And we're here to really work with them to elaborate their brands and grow together within this really amazing ecosystem that we have with the cannabis companies.
Awesome. And then finally, Robert.
Thanks. I am Robert O'Shaughnessy, co-founder of the Higher Ground Agency. We focus on media, paid media, earned media, shared media, owned media. And I myself lead the creative team alongside with Carol Ruiz, who founded the agency with me, and she leads PR. Our first client was Boulder Cannabis and Extracts back in 2015, obviously in Colorado. We did a website and launch campaign for them. And since then, we've expanded to have clients including the oldest dispensary in the country, Berkeley Patients Group, the only cannabis company on the New York Stock Exchange, a REIT, Innovative Industrial Properties. I'm the past chair of the NCIA's Marketing Advertising Committee. I know Lisa well from working with her on CMA in California, and we also work very closely with CCIA, Lindsay, Josh, Jeremy, and Justin, rather. Thank you so much, everybody, for the opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks, panelists. All right, so we're going to jump right into it. So Jonathan, this first question is for you. I believe we have a lot of out-of-staters actually on this call. So I just wanted to get a brief overview of the market and the supply chain in California. What license types are there? And just can you speak a bit about how distribution works for those in states that don't have distribution?
Sure. It's fairly straightforward on paper, at least. In practice, it's pretty complex. But we at Jetty are a manufacturer, so we manufacture our product from intake of cannabis trim all the way through to final oil or concentrates. And then we do have a distribution license. So we, up until recently, were self-distributed. So we ran sales and also logistics to all of our dispensary partners. So we do have both of those licenses. We just recently, as of a few weeks ago, formed a partnership with Kiva Sales and Service, Kiva being the edibles brand. And so we have turned over our sales and distribution over to them. We actually are maintaining a sales force as well in addition to theirs. So it's a bit of a hybrid. But all the product that we make now goes directly to Kiva, and Kiva Sales and Service then distributes it to our dispensary partners. It all gets very complicated in terms of layering in things like Metric, which is the program, track and trace program in California that we're all converting to. Things like sampling have to go through distribution as well. It can be pretty complex there also. But yeah, so now the product that we make goes all to Kiva Sales and Service and then out to the field from there.
Awesome. Thank you. So I actually want to jump right in and talk about the vape issue, because that has been something that's been coming up a lot and was actually requested that we talk about it for this panel. So Jonathan, we'll start with you, but as of last Tuesday, September 10th, the CDC reported up to 450 cases in 33 states of severe acute respiratory distress syndrome, possibly associated with vaping, and as many as 6 patients may have died from the condition. The deaths occurred in states like Illinois, Oregon, Indiana, California, Minnesota, and Kansas. and it appears that we don't know for certain what's causing this, but we do know that the problems are coming from both e-cigs and cannabis vaporizers. New York health authorities have confirmed that synthetic vitamin E oil is tainting most of the seized vape carts in the state. And the FDA has received over 120 samples for testing, and so far they have found vitamin E in 10 of the 18 THC-based samples. Some of these tainted carts are coming from brand names like Chronic Carts, Dank Vapes, and West Coast Carts, but the condition is linked to multiple illicit market brands across multiple states. So Jonathan, can you talk about what is happening? What should consumers know? What's going on here? And also, what can licensed brands do about it?
Yeah, it's of course the hot topic of the day. I can't get too far, both inside and outside the company, without it coming up. We've obviously been monitoring it since this first broke and determining if this is going to be, at the time, we'll just keep gaining traction. Will it go away? Strategizing on how best to deal with it has been something we've been working on quite a bit, as you can imagine. We put about, we're making about 15,000 vape carts per shift per day now. So it's a lot of product we're putting out into the market. What we've seen, not to go too far down this road, but there's lots of misinformation, speculation out there, and even the media tends to paint vape with a very broad stroke. And as we all know on this call, I imagine vape is a broad category, everything from nicotine, flavor, additives in a pod, including black markets, potentially homegrown, homemade, with all sorts of mysterious ingredients, all the way up to what we do in the cannabis industry, which is highly regulated and tested by the state of California. But so with all that, we're focusing on what we know to be true, including that there have been no incidents traced back to the regulated market within California. And at Jetty, we're focusing on three main things. So one is our products are additive free with no cutting agents, no vitamin E, no propylene glycol. It's cannabis oil, cannabis terpenes. And like every regulated California brand, we're certified, lab tested for pesticides, heavy metals, microbial impurities, and other adulterants. We at Jetty go even further. We actually test 3 times before oil leaves the building. And then the final talking point for us is we just want people to buy from the legal market. That's really the only way to be sure that you're getting genuine products and products that's passed all the testing requirements. And sort of editorially, for us, the company was founded really with a mission to get all that stuff out of the oil. We wanted to make a pure, clean vape. That was back in 2013 when we succeeded at that, and it's just really interesting to see where the market has come. But it's also really fascinating that it almost seems like if you look at the social media or you look at even some of the brands and dispensaries, most seem to have aligned on these same 3 points, because it is what we know to be true. We know that our product is additive free, we know that it's tested, and we know that the black market it could be potentially the source of a lot of this. So buying from the legal market's the only way to stay safe. And we also feel that it's really incumbent upon California and other states to really step up and get tougher on enforcement. I mean, we internally feel like we all know the illicit market is big. We've seen data, but all of this news almost tends to make it seem like it's even bigger than we potentially realize. So not to go too long into it, certainly can answer other questions, but we're monitoring it daily. We put out some statements on social media. We're going to continue to be open about what we do, and we think that's actually one of our best strategies is, hey, we've got nothing to hide, and so we want to share how we make our oil, what goes into it, and how it's tested.
Thank you. Robert, do you want to touch on this a bit? I know you do a lot of work with PR for your brands as well. Is this coming up for you in your day-to-day? And what are you seeing happen?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely we are. It's a crisis, really. It underscores, Lisa, something you and I have worked on together, but why to put together a crisis PR plan in the first place, which is, to acknowledge, I think it's important to acknowledge this is a crisis. And I think it underscores why one should prepare for bad things to happen and what to do in the event that they do. I like the point that you just made about how it underscores a problem with regulation, because indeed, California licensed and brands have not been traced to this mysterious lung disease, but we know that the thriving black market in various places is a cause. And so I think that underscoring this moment as a need for enforcing of existing laws is really quite important. I also think that in everything, you know, we marketers do, like we communications pros do, we do it knowing that we're doing it as like activists and advocates too for patients and for the plant. And so while the crisis isn't helping that work, I think how we respond to it will help our work to show why a licensed, regulated, and consistently regulated market will be necessary as this national legalization conversation is happening. I think that this is an argument for legalization, and I don't like seeing media and other foes sort of making an argument against legalization. So how we respond in our communications can help make that argument. So yeah, my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you. Daniel and/or Jess, do you have anything you want to add about the issue?
Sure, I'll jump in for a minute here. You know, it's really interesting to me, and I think Jonathan brought this up. Is it's fascinating how much misinformation there is out there. I mean, I was listening to an NPR podcast the other day, and they had a medical professional who was conflating flavored e-cigarettes with illicit THC vapes with the legal THC vapes, and sort of like jumping back and forth between them, and didn't even I don't think he even realized he was, and I feel like it's become sort of this blunt instrument that vaping equals bad, and it does worry me that the regulated legal THC vapes are going to get caught up in it, and we're going to see the blunt instrument of the government just like hand down bans and regulation in industries where we're not actually seeing this happen. David Downs has written a lot about this. Leafly has sort of taken, I feel like, the lead on addressing this issue, and he calls it bathtub gin, which is what happened during Prohibition. Was there was spirits that were being sold on the illicit market that were causing blindness or were killing people. But that didn't mean that they that Hendrix or Bombay or any of the other legitimate brands were causing it. It really was a subset, and I'm hoping that's where the focus is.
Yeah. Okay, well, I would like to move on to talk about branding as well. And Daniel, we're going to start with you. So the whole point of this webinar is to talk about how to take a homegrown brand national. So I want to start at the beginning. How does an early stage cannabis company start when it comes to branding? What are some of the first steps they should take? And for the early stage entrepreneurs on the call, what should they focus on, and what do you wish you knew when you were starting? Or what are some of the things you advise your clients in the very early stages when they first come to you?
So, when we work with clients to bring a brand to market, obviously it's, everything that we would do in the CPG world or in the spirits world or any of the other big categories that we work in is, develop that brand story and understand its positioning and understand its differentiators and its target and everything else. But really, when we launch, I think the most important thing a brand can do is really understand the sales channel. And that is to, support the bud tenders, to support the distribution channel, really think about, promotions and point of sale. And, a lot of brands come to us and they want to do a big advertising campaign, right out of the gate. And, one of the things we always talk to brands about is it's like, a big sort of like, ego boosting, outdoor campaign or something like that isn't going to help you if you're not selling through and if you're not selling in and if the bud tenders aren't helping to drive brand sales or product sales. So I definitely think out of the gate, supporting the channel is hugely important. And then, taking a brand national, as you all know, national brands are difficult in the cannabis space because you can't cross state lines with cannabis. So, one of our brands that we work with in Colorado is a beverage company, and they have to have, a manufacturing and a bottling and labeling line, in the 7 states that they operate in. So you either do it that way or you do it through licensing. So it's national brands are few and far between, and most of them are done either through licensing or building their own manufacturing facilities in each state.
Mm-hmm. And Jess, could you follow up on that? I know Filigree Distribution is a younger company. What are some of the things your team focused on in the early stages when it comes to branding? And what are some things maybe that are unique to the distribution channel that you focus on?
Yeah, well, because we are that distribution arm, we are mainly B2B, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't still apply to the consumer market as well. And I think that when you're building those brands, whether it be B2B or B2C, just as Daniel said, right from the get-go, you need to make sure that there is some clarity in what you're communicating, whether it's the way that your logo is formed or the tagline of your company or even your name, and making sure that those are unified with your founding properties, whether, it's amplifying community service or customer service or focusing on a B Corp, which are all things that we do at Filigree. With our company, we are, as I said, the logistics platform and logistics company, but we also have the technology side. And so, it's really our goal to make sure that we're making our partners' businesses as efficient as possible so that they can focus on what they do best, which is amplifying their brands, selling their products, and communicating with, their consumers. Again, as Daniel said, amplifying that sales channel. If you have a B2C product, you're really only going to do well if you're applying to those demographics that you have within your community, and really taking an idea of whether or not that same demographic is going to be present on a national scale is something to keep in mind as well. And I think that one of the things that we always find is that if you're applying to the human nature of people and you're making that connection, that's wildly important. And staying true to patient care and maybe situational based effects may be amplifying your products a little bit better than someone's just like trying to get high, or and that's another use case. But we found that things that are universal state to state are people have sleeping problems, people have anxiety issues, people have things that they want to help better themselves in different ways. And so staying true to what you've established in the beginning is great, and then staying true to your consumer base as well.
Thank you. Jonathan, I'd like to have you touch on this a little bit as well, but also I'd like to have you talk about having some branding based in California roots. And this just might be my ear to the ground and what I've heard in California, but I've always heard this amazing story of Jetty as it was started by two California surfers, and then they got into the cannabis industry and started manufacturing concentrates. Can you talk a bit about your brand story and how the company started, and really how Jetty may or may not incorporate, California roots and California branding into that message?
Yeah, for sure. So the company was founded in San Diego, really core group of 3 surfers and one more, actually 4 total. Just wanted to make a better product and get into the business. And so we started in San Diego. It was difficult to manufacture there at the time, and Oakland was much more inviting. So we packed up shop and moved up to Oakland. We still maintain a marketing office in San Diego, but the company was named after the Ocean Beach Jetty, where everyone would meet and surf and talk about creating this company. And in 2013, obviously was pretty early days for cannabis vape, and so it was a pioneering phase for us. Absolutely. Most of what we had to do to manufacture and start to create some scale, we had to figure out. There were no videos on extraction we could look up as reference guides on YouTube, and Google wasn't a whole lot of help either. So we had to do a lot of trial and error, and so we figured it out. And when I came in, it was in a sense easy for me as a marketer to look into our brand strategy and just get the story out of that core group who was still driving the company. And it was all there. It was just coming from a very authentic place. One of the founders, Matt, was focused on marketing, and he was just kind of doing it in kind of the best authentic way he could. He realized early on that, hey, this is going to be a consumer business, and so he wanted to, from the get-go, put it in a package that looked the part, that wasn't just a scary baggie or some other throwaway kind of item. It actually looked like a CPG product. And so my job when I came on a couple of years ago was just to kind of amplify that story. How do we take it to another step higher, smooth out the brand, refine our visual identity, get everyone onto the same page in terms of our story. Because as Daniel mentioned, that brand story, it really is critical. And now we're almost a couple of years into the new legal market here in California. It's still a constant pressure where we focus on the channel, as Jess and Daniel both said rightfully. It's huge. It is where a lot of the battle still is fought and won. But as a marketer, we all want to build our brands and think about the long term, and not just focus only on tactical kind of immediate initiatives. So constantly trying to figure out ways, how do we define our brand? How do we put that brand into our story and make sure that it's part of what we do? We're in California now. We've got feelers in other places. So, for example, we've got a partnership with Two Roots, the beverage company, who has beverages both here and in California. They've got a 10 milligram infused product using our terpenes. So that's beginning to help us reach beyond California. And then also we've got hemp-derived CBD, starting with a broad spectrum product with no cutting agents. And since we can ship to just about every state now, it's another way for us to spread the Jetty brand beyond simply California. But yeah, going back to that constant pressure between, looking at the channel and what can we do in store to influence sale, making sure we're covered there, but then also hoping to have enough budget resources to look at bigger brand building initiatives is absolutely critical, especially for new brands or brands that are looking to gain some scale. We found early on that people had different impressions about what Jetty was even internally. So I think it's important for everyone to really make sure they're getting that story and that we're all connected, and the brand strategy work can be super helpful with that.
Thank you. So Robert, I know your office is based in LA and you work with a lot of brands both in Colorado and California at various stages. So like Jonathan mentioned, and like we've talked about on this call, there is sort of this balance between in-store and point of sale, and then focusing on channels and other things like social media and marketing campaigns. And I've also seen that some brands do pop-ups and create storefronts like Dosis did in LA. Can you talk a bit, Robert, about experiential marketing and more of the in-person events and how brands can tell their story in person, and ways in which they can do that to make sure that their story is properly communicated? What are you seeing with some of your clients?
I'm gonna, as a tangent to that question, we're actually looking to create an experiential marketing, I guess the word is platform, using virtual reality, and have put together a really cool partner for this. So if anybody wants to be a guinea pig, look me up, because I think that's going to be one really cool thing. And I'm also interested in hearing from people if you've ever seen anything working well using VR. But anyway, that's an aside. We did something for a portable vape lounge that was visiting some music festivals, and had some luck with that. I saw a similar one in Denver around the Fish concerts 2 years ago, where someone who was affiliated with the band had introduced a new line of flower, and they were using the concert to promote that using a portable lounge. And I've seen that worked pretty cool. And I think that it's you're talking about low cost ways to create experiences. And I think that this is a good opportunity to echo rather, if you are creating an interesting pop-up experience, but you don't have buy-in from the people who are helping, actually move your product, you've just done some really cool work, but you haven't completed the distribution. So making sure you have those good partnerships is important when you're thinking about experiential. And also, as part of experiential, something that And again, this is sort of a low-cost thing to go back to an earlier question. But thinking about influencers, which is kind of an overused word, and strategic partners, who would be naturally excited about what you're doing and want to help and potentially even share on the costs. So who's making something that would complement what you're doing, and how can you put together an experiential, aka outdoor program that takes advantage of mutual shared interests and shared goals. So I would just underscore that strategic partnership piece of it as a really good tool for thinking about outdoor.
Nice, thank you. Does anyone have anything else they want to add about experiential marketing and in-person events?
I would add. Go ahead, Jess.
Oh, sorry, Dan. I just wanted to hop in and say, yeah, I know that there are stores that there are brands that are creating these really amazing pop-ups. For the Dosis situation, it makes complete sense because a lot of their consumer base are first-time users or people that are coming back to cannabis for the first time, and they really want that direct-to-consumer education. We have a partner that's starting a location in LA as well, which is Stravinsky's. They're about to open their doors shortly. That also makes sense to me because it's a high-end fashion cannabis product. So they're going to have control over, the way that the aesthetics is placed, the way that the products are placed, everything. And, for the brand role, it really becomes important to have that control over how your products are communicated to the consumer. And then the last piece of it is that bigger experiential marketing piece. And, we did a little bit of an activation at Northern Nights Music Festival, which was this past July up in Northern California. It was the first music festival in California to have both cannabis sales and alcohol sales in the same location, within the same music festival on different premises, obviously. But, it was a really amazing experience, and it brought a lot of attention to what you can really do at these bigger events, and what just makes sense. Like, it's logical sense that we have cannabis sales at those. And it's just, we're kind of just waiting for the regulations and the rest of the industry to get back to where we all know we can profit and expand our brands. And those are really incredible things to be a part of. And, I think that we also have a location up in Northern California, that same spot, that we can start doing hosted retreats for companies and harvest dinners where, we can have that connection between both the retailer and the brand in a very intimate way. And I think that people are seeing those intimate experiences as giving them a much larger ROI on everything that they're doing.
Thank you. Daniel, I'm actually going to move on, but this question is for you. So we've seen data, particularly from Headset, but data that says that essentially when a market first launches or a state is in their first few years of having legal recreational cannabis, a lot of products will be centered around a certain price point. So for example, consumables like edibles and tinctures, they initially are sort of centered around this $30 to $35 price point. But as the market matures, that expands. And then we see products in the $50 plus price point. We see products in the $20 and below. And we see that price range spread out as a market matures and as brands start to differentiate. So Daniel, are you seeing this in California? And how do brands justify their brand value at these higher end prices? What are some of the things that they're focusing on?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair to say, and I think I think part of that too, Lisa, is because the audience base is expanding as well, and it's like you're thinking back to the medical market in California, before adult use, a lot of the people you would see going into dispensaries they were looking for bang for the buck, and I would actually see people in dispensaries with calculators literally calculating the THC per dollar that they were purchasing, and so I feel like it was kind of that was the gauge in which, people looked at products they were buying. Then, after adult use, you start to see like, a lot of new brands come on the market, and you start seeing luxury products and premium products, and you start seeing products where they're spending a lot of money on packaging or a lot of money on brand differentiation, and they're really building it as a lifestyle brand. I mean, we're seeing products in California now that don't even really talk about the product. It's really all about, the packaging. It's all about, sort of the premier club you're joining when you buy this brand. So it would make sense that we now have, if you think about it, like, before adult use, we had sort of a mid-tier, everybody was kind of a mid-tier brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, now we have value brands, where, we have, products that are a lot cheaper, but we also have premium luxury brands that are a lot more expensive. And it really is no different than beer or whiskey or a CPG product where, there's going to be somebody who's happy with, a bottle of, $10 moonshine, somebody else who wants a $20 bottle of Jameson, and somebody who's willing to pay $300 for a 25-year-old bottle of scotch, and so we're going to see it mature like any other product or brand.
And to that point, when you have clients come to you in the beginning, are they sort of planning for this to happen, or do they initially launch with one or two of those sort of mid-range products and then figure that out as they go? I think one thing we've seen is, go ahead.
Oh, it all depends. But they usually have when they come to us, they usually have a pretty good idea of what kind of brand they want to build. So they'll come in and they'll know they want to be a value brand, and prices can be super important. Or they'll come in and they know they want to be a luxury brand or premium brand. So that is, before we even get started in sort of developing a visual identity or a logo or a go-to-market plan, we have a pretty good idea of what their positioning is going to be like and the slot they're going to fill.
That makes sense. Okay, so Jess, I want to talk a little bit about the role distributors play. Can you talk about how the brands that work with you, how do they work with you to convey their story to customers? And what are some ways that brands can improve their relationship with distributors to help them understand the brands they sell?
Yeah, so let's touch on the first part. So the distribution model for California is similar to alcohol, where we have a 3-tier model. There's the manufacturer, and then all products go to the distributor. We manage testing, tax remittance, and then getting it, logistics, getting it to the stores, and then there's the retailers. So the first part of all of that is that's that 3-tier model. There are a few different types of models that people are utilizing to be distributors. So, as Jetty and Robert were mentioning in the beginning, it was Jonathan was mentioning in the beginning that, Kiva Sales and Service are now taking over some of their sales products and things to that extent. There are distributors who have sales teams, and there are distributors who are logistics, and then there's kind of like the people who are doing a little bit of both. On the Silly Green side, we focus mainly on the logistics and amplify our partners through our technology platform. And we feel that the people who sell the products the best are the people who are the closest to it, which are the brands. So we take away and alleviate a lot of the problems that they might face through inventory management or logistics, and help them focus on what they do best, which is amplifying their message to the consumer. As a distributor, I found that what helps us learn best about the brands is really like those in-person trainings. So getting in to your distributor and having some time with them to talk them through the brand and have them maybe even sample the brand and, create those experiences that are genuine within their own personal experiences, and allow them to create that relationship with the product. I think that there's always a great time for a great sales sheet and working together to design a great experiential marketing program as well. And just getting creative together, because if you have a great partner, you can do really great things together.
Awesome. Okay, and Jonathan, one thing it seems like you guys are really starting to look into expanding nationally, and I know you have also recently launched Jetty CBD, which is not confined to California. Can you talk about some of the first steps that a brand takes when they are looking to expand out of state, and maybe some, hard lessons learned or advice that you would have for entrepreneurs that are looking to do that as well?
Sure. Yeah. It's early days for some of that strategy for us, but as much as you can do to build some awareness prior to entering the market, we think is going to be helpful. Again, as I mentioned, with whether it's a collaboration with a brand that's already there, even into another category, or something like CBD, which does allow you to reach beyond your normal means in terms of marketing, are all helpful. But for us, we're really focused on being able to maintain the quality. That's one of the biggest things that we're looking to do when in fact we do move beyond California. And we're concerned about that. We manufacture everything that we make here in the Oakland headquarters. So whether we set up our own facilities in other states or license it, making sure that we guarantee that quality is just paramount. And there's a huge benefit for the consumer as well, knowing that eventually, hopefully, you can go from state to state and get a Jetty product or any other MSO and really have a consistent experience every single time. So we're focused on that. And we haven't gone out and seeded any markets yet in terms of kind of pre-awareness with official campaigns or anything like that. But building your database as much as you can, being able to gather those names even from other states whenever you can, and be able to deploy them, obviously is super helpful when you're ready to go into those new markets.
And as a follow-up to that, it might be too early for you, but are you guys planning on continuing to tell the origin story of the Jetty brand outside of California, with the surfer starting this company and wanting a better product, or does that story evolve once you get out of state?
Yeah, it's a good question. We certainly have some strategy sessions to discuss that. Where we land every time is that's who we are. To be able to tell an authentic story like that we believe ultimately has value outside of California. The lifestyle coupled with just the reputation of California cannabis, we think will play well in other states. And in fact, we're doing a bit of a brand refresh already for our CBD line. That's going to lean into that a bit more. But the short answer is, yeah, we feel like we can export this California surfer lifestyle into other states because it's attractive and it's 100% authentic to who we are.
Daniel, what are your thoughts on that? As I know you work with many of the multi-state operators, do you see their brand story and message evolve as they go into new states?
Yeah, but I definitely agree with Jonathan that it's like, if you're changing your brand story, as you hop state to state, then it probably wasn't very good to start with, because your story, it needs to be authentic. It needs to be who you are. And the nice thing about California lifestyle is we've seen a lot of California brands, that work well, around the world, especially from, surf and skate culture. I think that I couldn't agree more with Jonathan that the Jetty brand needs to be who it is, regardless of where it's being sold. With some of the brands that we work with, again, with the multi-state thing is so difficult now, because you're either licensing or partnering or you're building your own manufacturing facility state to state to make it work. And a lot of the brands that we're working with that are national are part of the MSOs, the multi-state operators. So they're brands that are part of GTI or Harvest or some of these really big, they aren't these sort of organic brands that have that super authentic story like Jetty does. They're really more, creating these sort of like, scalable opportunities to be able to to jump state to state. And they also have, controlled retail, because a lot of these MSOs have their own dispensary chains as well, so that is, they've got a leg up over a lot of the brands that are like, really trying to get distribution in each state.
Awesome. Okay, last question, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. So for all the attendees, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the question box. So Robert, this last question's for you. How does the media play a role in branding? I know you work a lot with reporters in your agency, and speaking with reporters is protected under the First Amendment. So it's one of the ways that brands can tell their story and also help marketers really navigate some of the more intense restrictions that they have out there. Is the media still interested in hearing brand stories, or is that starting to get overplayed?
Sure, good question. Media is huge, and media is and will always be important, and we shouldn't forget that. And I'd kind of answer, I guess, in two parts. So a good PR plan should be thinking about, positioning and the messaging platform and understanding what a story is and how to tell that story to editors, to journalists, and so forth. Now you can do research, and there's software available even for this, to look at editors and journalists and what's their beat, what are they writing about, and understand how to, position a story, your brand story for that journalist. If you do that well, they're going to be glad because they're really busy and you've just helped save them time. But also, Jonathan was mentioning earlier David Downs and his insights about the vape crisis, and I love that bathtub gin phraseology. It's very clever. But he made a great point once, which was, we don't like it, especially, those of us who care about media. But he made the great point, which is that, it's kind of a pay-to-play environment these days, and paid placement opportunities, the purists and, don't like it, but it's effective. If you're placing a well-placed article in the right publication, and there are all sorts of industries that have examples of this. I won't really name names, but the pay-to-play opportunity is one to, remember. And a really well-written piece of sponsored content can go a long way if the organic, good old-fashioned pitching and outreach to media and journalists isn't working the way you had hoped.
Awesome. All right, well, we've got about 12 minutes left, so I would like to open it up to Q&A. Thank you all for those answers and responses. So the first question is from Peter, and he says, would the panel agree that market analysts and consumer behavior trends are overlooked in the cannabis industry? And you guys can jump in.
I don't know if I'd say they are overlooked. We certainly read them all and value them. I think it's how do we take action upon them, because again, a lot of the battle still is fought at retail for us, and so being able to really activate or do something at scale with some of this data, I think we're still in early days. Yeah.
I would add something to that too. It's like a lot of the predictions, going into adult use in 2018 did not actually come to fruition. There was supposed to be a huge amount of sort of new consumers coming on board, and we heard about the book club moms and the senior citizens, and the market was going to be $10 billion the first year, and it really hasn't happened. And so I feel like a lot of the data and a lot of the trends we're looking at is almost historic versus predictive. And so, again, with a lot of the local brands, I mean, again, to Jonathan's point, a lot of them are kind of just in survival mode and trying to figure out how to continue to drive sales, locally, to the current audience. And I don't think that the market has grown as fast as everyone expected it to. So it's not that any of that data is being ignored. It's just, it's just not, it hasn't really, a lot of it hasn't really been accurate.
I think another piece of this is that some of those smaller brands that you mentioned that are in survival mode don't have the funding to be able to access that data. Sometimes those memberships can be really high priced, or they have to get the data through another friend or another company that has access to the data, and it's not always, exactly the way that they need to see it. And so having that access to the data, having access to, the analytics that you really want to apply to your business are really important. And again, I think that goes back to having a partnership with anyone who has access to that or can support you in ways that you can't maybe do yourself if you're too small of a brand.
Okay, so the next question is from Eric, and he says, how important is packaging as it relates to branding cannabis? Jonathan, do you want to start with that?
Sure, yeah, I'll jump in on that. We changed our form factor right around the time of the adult use market. Working on a new, we're kind of known for our tube design. We spent a lot of time, we had an agency partner help us with that to get the design right. We just felt it was very, very, very important as any consumer goods product wants to put on the right presentation in the retail setting. So we just knew that would become a more and more important factor from the very beginning. So we focused quite a bit of effort on that. We also focused on sustainability, trying to eliminate plastic from our packaging, which we've been able to do, and also just place a lot of value on what's happening at retail and getting the form factor right, and working now towards some more automation. So not only can we actually have the look and the feel and presentation that we want in store, but actually be able to realize some cost savings by doing some labeling through automation within our factory and streamline that process as well. But yeah, it's a critical step.
Anyone else want to jump in on packaging?
I think packaging is hugely important because so many sales happen in the last 3 feet. So many sales happen actually at the dispensary, and that's when decisions are made. And that's when a lot of people walk into a dispensary not having any idea of what they're going to buy. And so I feel like packaging is hugely important. And I feel like it's many of these products are relatively homogeneous, and so packaging is definitely a differentiator.
And I'd also add, again, packaging and display as well. Back to, I think, one of the points Robert was making earlier. The brands that are in stores are, they're representing, a new product, and consumers don't really have a lot of information. I think we're maturing, we're growing. I think a lot of the early consumers that were coming in for the first time didn't have a whole lot to go on, and so potency was really the story. Now we're getting into a period where education is happening and people are understanding or beginning to understand or want to know more about terpenes, strains, and effects. We at Jetty are even working on some minor cannabinoids and doing some small batch product where we can get into some different types of product that aren't generally available at scale. I kind of harken it back to the beer analogy or the alcohol analogy, where if you walk into a Beverage and More or a big liquor store and all you cared about was the percentage of alcohol by volume, you've got lots of choice. But today you can get all sorts of IPAs, hazy IPA, cream ale, et cetera. Right? So there's much more nuance and there's much more education, and we're starting to see some of that now in California cannabis market.
So Lily's question is, what's your favorite marketing channel / budget friendly channel?
Yeah. You guys want to take that one first?
I'm going to hold my, this is Robert, I'm going to hold my card tight.
It's Instagram. So I think
probably Instagram.
Yeah, I think the hardest piece of Instagram is really tracking that ROI and tracking that conversion. But I would agree with everyone that it's Instagram.
Yeah, I hesitate. I mean, I feel the same way. It's a challenge for us because we run the constant threat of being shut down, shadow bans. It's pretty stressful. So obviously we want it to work for us. Want to put resources into it, but we never really know. We could be shut down, and the inability to promote within Instagram in a meaningful way and reach our audience is a challenge. But yeah, certainly it's an important piece of it.
And a follow up to that, Jonathan, I thought I saw recently that Jetty CBD did get shadow banned on Facebook. How, Stephanie asked the question, how do you deal with shadow banning?
Yeah, we're working through that right now. I mean, it was very, very early on in the launch of the product, so we're trying to get some resolution through Facebook. Haven't had much success yet. I would be more worried if we were further along in the process, but obviously it is something we want to get back. Unfortunately, I don't have a good answer. We haven't resolved it yet. We're still trying.
So you reached out to Facebook, and have they been responsive, or is it, my experience has been that they're very slow to respond and very vague in their answers.
Yeah, that's what we're experiencing. We've got a consultant helping us with that and other things now as well. But yeah, it's not like a kind of simple appeals process. At least it's not proving that way so far.
Okay, and then Seth's question is, what advertising channels are being used by brands and dispensaries? What's working and what's not, as best as ROI can be determined? Obviously, Facebook, Instagram, and AdWords are still illegal for the use for the time being. So perhaps what's not working?
For us, we're still in. Oftentimes we're piloting various things from different types of media. We haven't deployed anything in a dispensary, although that is something we're considering now with some TV monitor content. For us, what tends to work really, unfortunately, is it's very localized, so it takes a lot of resources. But at the individual store level, whether it's a display or some other marketing program that we can get involved with, kind of on an individual basis, for us, that's been really critical. We haven't really found a single broad channel that kind of does it all for us yet.
Yeah, I'd piggyback on that and say, this is Robert, and I would add that different cities all have different, like, quote unquote street teams that you can research. Like if you're going to a city that's unfamiliar to you, and there are companies whose expertise is going into dispensaries and forming personal relationships when you're not there. Personal relationships are always great and helpful, particularly with bud tenders or business owners, but there are companies that offer that kind of street team service that I've found. Also, what doesn't work is, I'm always playing with like ad networks and audiences, and very often, if you're looking at your metrics, the ad networks that are promising to reach your demographic and follow all the rules and restrictions and so forth, they're getting better, but oftentimes they've been disappointing. So I guess in experimenting, part of the answer is be sure you're looking at your analytics to see, are you getting traffic? Are you getting conversions? And where are they coming from? And be ready, don't get stuck in a 120-day out clause.
Okay, and then last question before we wrap this up. So Stephanie asked, how do new brands find and foster partnerships?
Hey, Lisa, this is Justin, CCIA. I just wanted to kind of touch on this real quick because, if there's one kind of large overarching takeaway from a lot of these types of conversations, it's simply getting involved, like follow and join, the Cannabis Marketing Association, CCIA. There's a lot of jam-packed information that we're talking about over the last hour. But this is just 1 hour of what a lot of these people are doing every day. And a lot of these things change so rapidly that being just on email lists and, attending the events where there's updates and being able to meet people face to face in terms of, building those relationships and building those partnerships. I know a follow-up question is somebody asked, how do they stay up to date with the latest laws and regulations? And that's the same thing. Really just make sure you're staying involved, make sure you're putting your education first, because there's a lot of fast moving parts within the industry, as we all know. So, and we as nonprofit, trade associations, it's definitely, the onus is on us to keep you as updated as possible. So, yeah, definitely happy to just kind of add that piece.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Today, this was a really awesome panel discussion and a successful conversation. So thank you all for joining today.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to our panelists.